Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey, good evening everybody. Hope everybody had a wonderful Sunday, hopefully a wonderful weekend. Looks like it's going to be, I believe, an exciting week. Lots of things that have been ongoing that are bringing us all hope, and that's one of the things that we do with Militiaman and Crew. We're consistent and we try to keep news flowing, and we try to analyze it the best we can to keep you guys informed on the ongoings. And thank you all too for the wonderful comments I get. I get them in Patreon, I get them in Discord, I get them also here on YouTube on occasion too. So thank you very much everybody, we appreciate it. Looks like 99% like is on a regular basis is telling me that you guys are, getting good information and you appreciate it. So really, once again, thank you very much. And you can always find us at patreon.com/MMANDCREW.com. So come check us out. We have the Militiaman's chat room. You gotta look for that when you connect. You can, second page, it says membership. You gotta go to the bottom. And by the way, everybody, don't use an app, use a web browser to access Patreon. It'll make it easier for you and simple, seamless, and when you can connect to Discord, you just look for Militiaman's chat room. Okay, so that's where you can find us. So thank you very much for all your help, and thank you all you for your donations. It helps keep us going, and we're still here. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Hey, you guys probably caught me say something to the effect that I thought that the Central Bank of Iraq was probably a little further along in their completion of their new central bank. And it looks like they put out some pictures. I tried to get some pictures. I asked some people in our room that have Iraqi friends and stuff to take pictures, and they said it was a security issue and they couldn't get close enough, so they did not decide to do that. That's okay. But here we are. The central bank has published some recent photographs of that level of completion, and it's fascinating. Beautiful building. The architecture is phenomenal. So take a peek at that. You guys will come in. You can come in and see it. There's a few pictures there, but believe it or not, you can also find them on the internet. The company Zaha Hadid Engineering are the ones that did it, and sadly she's passed. But the bottom line is her efforts will go down in history as a focal point. Woman architect in the country of Iraq designed their central bank building. And keep in mind, this building is about 170 meters height, so it's big, it's tall, 38 floors. It's going to be a big thing. If in fact that the articles are true that Iraq has, I guess, allowed the United States Treasury to get a floor, whether that's the floor of one of their older central banks or if that's a floor in this new central bank. I would suggest that's probably the latter, but hey, they don't specifically say. But anyway, Central Bank of Iraq is working with a team effort with the United States Treasury, the United States Federal Reserve, and other central banks around the region. Al-Awlaq, if you remember, he's been under kind of the fire since 2023, probably mid 2023. There's people that were asking him to be removed for his incompetencies. Well, we've all known that Al-Awlaq made it through his first term as central bank governor and had no issues, and then he went to the head department at the Arab Monetary Fund, and so then he's back again. So obviously the United States Treasury and the U.S. Federal Reserve would be fully aware of his credentials and know what he's capable of. So we'll have to see how that goes. And remember, there's been a lot of corruption, and one way to fight corruption is to allow your enemies, if you will, the corrupt, to hang themselves. And believe it or not, a lot of them do. And I think some of these MPs in Parliament are part of it, because there's political influence. There's these, what they call the whales, and different names, whatever, but hey, just check it out though. But it's this is no surprise that they're completing that bank. And when we remember, they said they were going to have a celebration sometime this year or early next year for the bank. I think that's probably just being cautious, being conservative. I think they're further along than that now. So, but we'll see. At least the skin of the building, it looks to be like it's been done. Fascinating. The trade discusses the mechanism of Iraq's accession to the Federal Union of World Trade Points. This article is talking about the World Trade Organization, in my view. It says the mechanisms for Iraq's accession to the Federal Union of World Trade Points and the legal procedures for joining and the advantages that Iraq sectors will receive. The Director General of the Department, Ebethal Hashim, states that they've established this company, if you will, the World Trade Organization in 2000. I don't think so. I think it's about 5 years prior to that. But anyway, concerned with the management and development of international trade points in order to activate electronic commerce, as well as its capabilities to provide small and medium-sized companies with trade information to member countries in developing and least developing countries. Well, Iraq used to be one of those, but now I believe they're going to be transitioning to more developed. The meeting also discussed the issue of transformation of electronic commercial systems currently working within the international arena in order to raise the export level of the private sector and introduce the outside world to the comparative advantage of Iraqi industries. So here you have the WTO situation, international trade points, activating electronic commerce, and the transformation of electronic commercial systems. We know that the world, our ICE-CUDA world system, is in play. They've told us that for a long period of time. And remember, go back to 2021, JP Morgan got the nod to do digital currencies and clearing of the United States dollar, and others, of course, through the Buna platform. And that's going to be a big thing, because once Iraq is fully international, they'll have the ability to use enhanced electronic technologies, the blockchain technologies, and they've already had it set up. They've had it set up for quite a long time. So keep in mind, a lot of these things that are already done, we're not waiting on them. They've been in the process. Some of these are the biggest players, the biggest banks in the world. They did tell us they were going to be the financial saver of the world, and I think they mean it in more ways than one. But here's an article that says the U.S. State Department, our commitment to the relationship to the Kurdistan region is firm. So we know that we have a good relationship with Iraq. We have a pretty good relationship with Baghdad. We also know that al-Sudani showed up to the United States recently in Washington. So he's had some communications. Al-Alaq was recently brought into Washington. And then you find out later within this last month or so that his meetings in Washington were important, probably a little bit firm, I guess, let's say, that we need to have things done. We need to get it done now. And so we're not going away. Hence, you get the article about that we have a floor of the Central Bank of Iraq. And so it sounds like they have a push on for this to happen, which is really bullish for us. It says President Barzani received the new Consul General Steve Bittner in Erbil, and the largest U.S. diplomatic buildings in the world will be built soon. It's my understanding that this consulate, this new consulate, the largest one in the world, is going to be built in the Kurdistan region. Remember now, the United States Embassy in the Green Zone is the largest embassy in the world. And does that mean we're going to run and go away? No, we have assets, don't we? So, as future presidents, or past presidents have talked about, there was descriptions of not paying for the war, or we're going to get our money back. We've invested in Iraq. And obviously, that still holds true today. And given the attacks on Iraq's bases that have repeatedly injured American personnel, the massive assets you have in the new consulate, does it make sense for the U.S. to rebalance its personnel across the country? State Department says we've been engaged in discussions with the government of Iraq on the future of Operation Inherent Resolve since last year. And those meetings included the Prime Minister and President Biden in Washington back in April. So he goes, we continue to have productive discussions. The Sudanese Prime Minister highlighted in a readout of his call with Secretary Blinken on August 11th this month. These discussions are ongoing, And while we believe we are close to an agreement, we have nothing to announce on that at this time. So basically, with the U.S. Treasury having a floor at the central bank, it's my understanding, in this massive embassy in Baghdad, that it's the largest in the world, is, I understand it, pretty big, and now there's going to be the largest consulate in the Kurdistan region. So you've got two major buildings. You guys, I think, the size of these buildings, you have to look up the size of it. You can Google it, but the acreage is amazing, all under one building. It's phenomenal. It's amazing. Okay, so anyway, the trade exchange from the country through that road development project is going to be phenomenal. So basically what we're going to see is the United States is going to be sticking around in some shape or form to protect her assets. And I think you guys, if you guys witnessed it a year or two ago, there was some people on a patio dining showing some missiles that were being launched into Iraq towards the central bank, and they were protected by some electronic systems, military, taking care of that bank. So obviously it shows that what the United States did back then is protecting their assets. So anyway, we'll go on to the next article. So the government advisor explains the possibility of using dinar instead of a dollar in oil sales. I think what we're going to read here is somewhat of his pros and cons. I don't think I'm going to get into every single one of them, but so Mohammed Saleh has clarified today, which is Sunday, what is being circulated in some of the news outlets regarding the possibility of using the dinar instead of the dollar sales. So he's openly talking about it. Are they going to use or are they going to have the adoption of the dinar in pricing oil? It sounds like, well, what are they going to call it? First off, they call it the PetroDinar, especially when the national currency is not one of the international currency reserves in the world, right? It requires the availability of foreign reserve currencies or gold, just like as Russia did when it bought Russian oil with gold-backed rubles, which caused problems that he will go on and discuss later. They go on to talk about fixed and flexible exchange rate mechanisms. Exchange rate mechanism we're going to find is exchange rate. Let me find the terminology here. Is exchange rate. Oh, I'm sorry. Fixed rate exchange rate system. Basically, exchange rate. So that's what they're getting at. They're talking exchange rate, and again, there's still to me that he's been talking about pros and cons, and one of the cons, if you will, is that there's no value change, and it's basically only just making it so that there's just less cash. That's not the case, and they say there's pros to it also, but they say that any deviation between oil prices and the petrodollar and the exchange rate, PetroDinar, according to international market data, will be considered a cost that requires compensation by paying fewer dinars or collecting a higher dinar in the opposite case. Simple. Indicating that the international reserve currencies are foreign currencies held by the central banks and global financial institutions as a part of their cash reserves. Just like Iraq has dollars, they have euros, they have other currencies, foreign currencies. Okay, so these currencies are used in international transactions and settling debts between countries and are standard for international payments and facilitating global trade. So if they're going to be talking about adoption of a dinar in pricing oil, a PetroDinar, it's going to have to be somewhat competitive to international currencies, and they'll have to have what they call a single price mechanism in play. And it's common for them for countries to do that all the way around the world. It's really common. So for instance, if you're going to buy oil in euros, but they're pricing it in dollars, you'd have to just do conversions for currency. So if you're going to do the same with that rate, that similar situation, you do that with the dinar as well. And so equivalency comes into play. The euro is slightly superior to the United States dollar, just as the British pound is. So they're going to be equivalent, but they're going to be priced in dollars. Just no different than Iraq. Iraq's currency can be one thing, but they're still going to sell oil in dinar. And so we'll see how it goes. It says the global oil market. Oh wait, one of the things that they do talk about is the principle of using the dinar as a local currency in international oil exchanges, PetroDinar, is not without many challenges, which is why those potential challenges must be carefully considered, especially as issue of flexibility or stability of the value of the PetroDinar itself to change and fluctuation, especially since we in the oil market are not price makers in it, but rather price takers, okay, because they're going to be selling something and you're going to take a price for it. He notes that the global oil market will control the fluctuation of the local currency, which is the PetroDinar, in addition to the importance of international recognition of it and the financial infrastructure necessary to support such operations. I like that. The financial infrastructure is necessary to support the operations of the PetroDinar. He says, in other words, the strategy of the relying on the value of the currency or relying the value of currency directly on oil exports may make the value of the local currency vulnerable to fluctuations in the global market. So there's risks. They have risks and they all know it, but what everybody does. There's risks in a lot of markets, you guys, and Iraq's going to be no different. But one of the hopes is that Iraq is going to try to work with other countries in the region to defend their currency. And they're going to try to keep it as stable as they possibly can. And having a flexibility to the exchange rate so that it can maybe move a little bit here and there so that they can inject money, take money out, buy and sell the dinar, etc., is something that they've got on the mind. And we all know that Saleh, the financial advisor, has talked about the float. He's talked about a managed float, if you will, or a mixture of the peg and the float, which would be considered flexible, right? A mixture, sure. Okay. It says a fixed. He goes, adopting the local currency in global trade is a very complex issue to ensure the stability of oil prices is consistent with the value of the Iraqi dinar, PetroDinar here, especially in a fixed exchange rate system. So, and they put exchange rate, so they're talking about a fixed exchange rate. So in other words, they're going to keep it pegged, stable, just that's it, fixed. Okay, unless discounts are granted or differences are changed or charged in oil marketing operations or floating the PetroDinar or floating, then for example, the oil market company, SOMO, will play a dual role in oil and monetary policies, whether the field of oil pricing oil and dinar exchange rate. Again, they're talking about oil dinar exchange rate. So he goes on and continues. The strength and stability of the Iraqi dinar will remain linked to the factors of real growth and diversity in the national economy. They go on to say that, in addition to that, achieving an appropriate surplus in the current account of balance of payments and linking the national currency to a basket of foreign currencies that provide stability in the value of the dinar itself. These guys are going to do what they think is the most positive, and what I'm reading to you is, I believe, components of what I think they're going to likely use, is because they're not going to try to hurt the situation. They're going to try to make themselves successful. And that big bank they just built, they finished, probably knows very, very well what to do properly. Okay. They've been around the block for a while, and obviously there's new things, there's new systems, there's new electronics, there's new behaviors. They have a better ability to fight corruption, and that is the digital transformation that we've been talking about. They're doing it. They're using these systems, and that's why you have these guys coming out after al-Sudani, a little bit after al-Sudani in the past, back in July, in September of last year, but they were definitely coming after al-Alaq. Because why? Because their cash cow, if you will, is getting dried up. And obviously they're getting squeezed. And you have not only have people in Baghdad that are going to be getting squeezed, you got people in Kurdistan area are going to get squeezed as well, because they just are on the wrong side of the trade. They have different agendas. So introducing mechanisms for stabilizing the dinar exchange rate into a single rentier economy exclusively based on the oil dinar is an economic trend with ambiguous results and is very vague. Okay, so in addition, he's entering the PetroDinar system, which requires risks aforementioned to ensure stability in light of the fluctuations in oil assets cycles, single renter economy, which is just oil. But remember now, it's not going to be just oil anymore with Iraq. It's not. It says not to mention not knowing the adoption exchange system, again, the PetroDinar, not knowing that exchange rate yet. They haven't exposed it. Okay, well, we're going to watch and see. It says, will it be a fixed exchange system? Question. Supported by foreign reserves, or will it be a flexible exchange system in which the PetroDinar changes with the change in oil prices? We're going to have to find out. These paths at the moment have no answers on the ground and are really very ambiguous. So it's undetermined, according to him. Because why? Because they haven't told you the exchange rate yet. Okay, so if Saleh is suggesting with respect to the dinar exchange rate is ambiguous, then he's undecided, or they are just yet, as far as publicly, which way they're going to go with the future of the dinar related to oil. I believe that the most logic sense, and I think they've implied it implicitly many times. Saleh has said it over and over. Many reports we've had this year alone talk about that, and they give you the best scenarios. I think that's where they're going to go. And it goes on to say that there's always risks associated with supply and demand and other factors such as oil price shocks, all of those things. Basically, what's he doing? He's educating the people on how to keep all of this in mind. They're keeping it fresh in the citizens' minds, as there's a likelihood there's going to be a big change coming, and that will likely reflect the flexible exchange rate system. All of that is in my opinion. So that's an interesting bit of information today. So it's powerful to see that this time you see that Central Bank of Iraq is finishing up the construction. If it's not already completed, it's probably just the final process of it. It looks like the exterior is completely done, so they can button up the inside if they haven't already been doing that, because it's a big building. It's 138 floors, or no, excuse me, scratch that. It's 38 floors, 170 meters. That's more accurate. Here's an article, the Central Bank of Iraq to the news. So the central bank gets out and says, we are working to reduce the price of the dollar in the coming days. And so that's what they just told you. We are working to reduce the price of the dollar in the coming days. Well, to be fair, that statement could be misleading, because it's not Iraq's job to do anything to the United States currency value. They don't have any control over it, period. But what do have? They have the control over the dinar, that PetroDinar. They can change the value of their currency. Remember, Al-Alaq said the Delete the Zero project is still in play. Okay, so price of the dollar, going to change. Well, if in fact they raise the value of the Iraqi dinar, obviously the value of the currency in respect, or that ratio, okay, is going to change. There's some comments that are at the beginning of this article. It says the government efforts to control the dollar on the black market make daily life difficult for our Iraqis. So it's kind of like a reasoning. Parliamentary Finance Committee identifies a single factor for the stability of the dollar and the dinar. Another comment. Where is the crisis of the dollar's rise in Iraq heading? The government is about to take measures to curb it. So these are like questions and statements, but the bottom line is that the deputy governor of the Central Bank of Iraq has confirmed that work is underway to reduce the price of a dollar against the dinar in the coming days. So we've heard this before, but we haven't seen the end result yet. Why is that? Could they have been trying to do it before? Sure. Have they tried many times? They could have. Are they trying to do it again? The evidence supports that this is what they're telling us, that they're going to try to do it again. So hopefully they get this one done. It says that on Saturday, it says regarding the bank's efforts to stabilize the dollar price, it says the average market injection is about 200 million per day in order to stabilize the value of the dollar, and there is hope that the price will decrease in the coming days. So they've had diminished that number significantly below 2 million or 200 million. And then today there was one for 274 million. So they've been, I don't know, all over the place with this. But the bottom line is, it says the deputy governor of the central bank said they have made serious efforts to solve this problem, and transfers will return to normal soon, likely next week, which was said on Saturday. Next week got started today. So that's powerful too. So it's obviously open and it's in the news. It says here that the Federal Reserve Bank, the U.S. Central Bank, had previously imposed measures on restrictions on foreign financial transfers from Iraq to ensure that they did not reach Tehran and Damascus. So ultimately, what is this? It's not the CBI's job to change the value of the dollar. It's not. Their job is dinar. It's that simple. So if Al-Alaq is going to hold true to his statements, and Al-Alaq is going to hold true to his statements, it's time to show it, because they have, in the coming days, going to make a move or changes to what they said. What they said was to change the value of the dollar. Well, once they change the value of the dinar, the relationship changes. One becomes worth more than the other. And that's what al-Sudani said. Drop the 3 zeros creates value. That's what Alaq says. Okay? Drop 3 zeros, apply an international calculation to the exchange rate, and voila, you have a relationship between the petrodollar and the dinar. Petrodollar and PetroDinar. Sorry, you guys. I got that one a little bit around my ears, as Pompey Peter would say. But anyway, you guys get the point. My last article here is called The Consensus of the Acceptability of Using Electronic Payments, which technically electronic payments means what? Less cash. Not no cash, but just less cash. The executive director of the Iraqi Development Fund, Mohammed Al-Najjar, believes that electronic payment has achieved acceptable results in various regions, as electronic services are present in all cities and towns of the country of Iraq. Okay, so electronic payments has already been sorted. They've already done much of that. In fact, they go on to say they have a significant amount, a very significant amount of point of sales now, locations, for instance. Okay, he says it's noteworthy that the governor of the Central Bank of Iraq, Ali Moshan Al-Alaq, said that the Central Bank of Iraq works side by side with the government and the Prime Minister's direction to support electronic payments, as the amounts preceded in the national switchboard systems amounted to, so many trillions of dinars in just July alone. Okay. The executive director of the Iraqi private banks, Ali Tariq, stated that electronic payment paths are in continuous development and proceeding according to plans drawn up to improve the reality of this important point, pointing out that the government's confirmations and the instructions of the Central Bank of Iraq that urge the expansion of the use of electronic payment have led to the improvement of the reality of all these transactions, which have been continuously expanding. So it's been ongoing and ongoing and ongoing. It just didn't get started. The economic benefits of the reality electronic payments systems have also been clear, as it makes money move in a safe direction, away from forms of manipulation that may be witnessed with transactions that are in cash. So Tariq stresses that the fact that the point of sales have exceeded 50,000 barrier indicates the acceptability of electronic payment. And of course, the development needs to be reinforced by providing products that are world-class in performance, pointing out that the government decisions supporting this trend achieve clear positive results. He goes on and says, all institutions concerned with electronic payment must give great attention to the issue of education. Again, isn't that what Soleil and others have been doing, educating the citizens, which is one of their priorities? And that there must be a clear role for the media in making all segments of society aware of the reality of electronic payment and the methods it brings to the beneficiary and how it is adopted globally, protects citizens' money, as well as achieving benefits for the user. So their focus is assurances to the citizens. The central bank's orientations provided a historic opportunity to stimulate and use electronic payments, as it's witnessing a clear focus and issuance of many decisions that serve to accelerate, there's that word again, its use in a way that ensures its expansion in adoption. Noting that for the first time, Iraq is witnessing decisions that serve the electronic payment process in light of the presence of and infrastructure of the central bank, the banking system, and electronic payment companies. He's pointed out that the outside world has witnessed major revolution in the field of electronic payment and a complete move away from cash transactions due to the safe paths it provides for money and its transfer without any defects. In Iraq's electronic payment systems expand to the extent that it will benefit the largest segment of the society. So basically, you guys, today's data out is really has me smiling really large, because the talk of exchange rate systems, the talk of mechanisms, activations, implementations, PetroDinar, etc. Here they're showing they have a long attention to electronic payment systems, and the saturation of 50,000 point of sales systems is huge. Success, and it's all successes. That's what they've been talking about, and they're combining it. To me, with that big bank being ready to open, I think they're talking about having a celebration. They said it was going to happen this year or into next. I got a strong feeling that if they're going to be showing things in the coming days, we all know we have no idea exactly what coming days is, but they said this next week, that started today. So let's see what happens, you guys. It's going to be a big week. I'm hoping that they show us what everybody's been waiting for, of course, but let's see how it goes. I'm pretty positive that the fact is that we can see this all coming to a head. We saw things about the WTO. We see things about the central bank opening. We see things like that. All of this comes together at the same time, and it's coming really kind of fast and furious. And then again, add in the negativity, add in all the people, all the calls for Alok to leave his post. They came at him all week last week, but guess what? He's still in his position. He was a central bank governor in the past, went to the AMF. Obviously, he was the head of the board of one of them, one of the heads, and also now he's back. So when they threaten his incompetence, it's obvious that they have an agenda. And if they've been saying the same thing, trying to get him gone for over a year and haven't been able to, it's obvious the UST, the US Fed, and al-Sudani feel it's not necessary, or they would have probably done it already. So thank you, everybody. Hey, if you like the content, hit that subscribe button and that like button. And don't forget, we have Zelle, Venmo, and PayPal for your contributions. Much appreciated. Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content. Subscribe to the channel or join us at the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much appreciated. Thank you so much and have a great day.